Good morning and welcome. You are watching A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Mkokeli Tanda. In our program this morning, we talk to the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Arts and Culture about public hearings on what appears to be a controversial piece of legislation, the South African Languages Bill. We'll also bring you statements from members of Parliament and responses from cabinet ministers on topical issues. Let's go to our first item. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Arts and Culture is grappling with new legislation aimed at promoting the use and development of all official languages. The South African Languages Bill stems from a Constitutional Court judgment, Lawrence versus President of South Africa, 2 years ago, when the government was instructed to pass new legislation that will regulate and monitor the use of official languages through legislative and other measures not later than the 16th of March next Friday. Parliament's Arts and Culture Portfolio Committee is holding a series of public hearings engaging role players and stakeholders on the South African Languages Bill. The Constitution requires the government to take practical and positive measures to elevate the status and advance the use of indigenous languages and to ensure that all 11 languages enjoy parity of esteem and are treated equitably. The South African Languages Bill proposes that all national departments, entities and enterprises develop their own language policies, provided they identify at least 3 official languages to use for government purposes. Only 2 provinces, the Western Cape and Limpopo, have so far enacted provincial language laws in accordance with the Constitution. In a recorded interview, we asked the chairperson of Parliament's Arts and Culture Portfolio Committee, Thandile Sunduza, what government hopes to achieve through this piece of legislation.
Government currently doesn't have law whereby it states which language to communicate in when they communicate their services, even their entities as well. What they usually use is a constitution to say that 11 official languages. So there's no law that really states which language to use, but the whole objective of government is to ensure that now there's enforcement to use all 11 languages. That's why the bill is stating that you must have at least 3. Then it doesn't limit you to 3, then you can go beyond up to 11, but we're still saying 3 for now.
You've been holding public hearings with various role players and interest groups. What are they saying with regard to this piece of legislation?
They've welcomed it. All of them who came to the public hearings, they welcomed it, but the main issue is that as much as the legislation says 3, at least most of them feel that the 11 languages must be used because they would be equal. Especially the other group that was more concerned is those with the disability of not hearing, who are deaf. They raise their concern, but one of the issues that I've raised is that if you do that, then that means you must amend the Constitution. But that's why it pans out within other structures as well to ensure that those languages used. But the main concern is the issue of 11 languages. But they've welcomed the bill a lot. Everybody was happy because they say language is very important. If you want to destroy a nation, you start by destroying the language, then destroy the identity.
But who are you engaging? One gets the impression that you're only talking to academics. Are ordinary people in one way or the other also engaged?
Yes, on the ground, the way chiefs, Amakosi, there were local representatives, NGOs, not only on the public hearings, even there are still submissions that are still coming in from different tribes which are still coming. That's why they're still open so that we can get the issue. I think the disadvantage is that if it was a Section 75 bill, would be going to provinces with NCOP, so everyone had to come to Cape Town for public hearings.
Ms. Sunduza, critics of the bill are of the view that the bill in its present form is unlikely to give effect to government's constitutional obligation to take practical and positive measures to elevate the status of indigenous languages so as to enjoy parity of esteem. Is that indeed the case?
You see, the challenge is that with the bill at its current form, as I said, that it's an initiative for now. We're starting with 3. That's why it was saying initially that at least 2 indigenous languages must be prioritized over those who enjoyed, I would say, the privilege pre-1994. So the critics, most of them are saying, why don't we all just use it, all the 11 languages? But now the current challenge for government is the monetary issues, the funds, yet. That's what the department is raising to say. For now, it's issue of funds. That's why we're saying, Mr. Tanda, that we are not limiting you to 3, but at least 3 is a minimum. Not to say that if an entity can go beyond 3 to 11, then it's fine. It would be, we'll be happy.
Some minority groups, including African-speaking people, have at some stage expressed concern that Africans could just eventually be marginalized. Is that indeed a possibility with this piece of legislation?
You see, the problem is that if we can do that, then it will be unconstitutional. There's no way that any language can diminish at the end of the day. I know Afrikaner Bond and what's this other one? Oh, one of these Afrikaner groups, they were raised that concept that we're diminishing Afrikaans when we say that at least 2 indigenous languages, because they're saying that obviously the English will be used. And my challenge was that, what if then all 3 indigenous languages are used? Are you going to say that you are still dealing with Afrikaans? One of the issues that they are raising, that 8%, less than 8% of English speakers in this country. So why should English take priority? And that's the ongoing lobby groups now. That's what they've been raising. And then my argument is that now, so we can't be held ransom to say that we cannot transform this country in terms of languages. That's one of the issues that I've been raising. But secondly, I'm saying that who said they've got this mentality that obviously it will be English that will be used. And that's my argument, to say you cannot just say obvious. So I find it contradictory, because they say if we use English should be obvious. And then my question would be to them, what if all 3 African languages are used? They say no problem. So it has got its ambiguity. We would never do that. That would be very unconstitutional.
A representative of the Pan South African Language Board, in his input to the public hearings, objected to the idea of taking regional and provincial demographics into account when determining which official languages government departments and entities should adopt. PenSALP is of the view that this could take us back to Bantu stance. Do you share that sentiment?
Partly you would. As I said to you, we must start somewhere when we transform, because they felt that if we say languages must speak their own regional languages, like here in the Western Cape, there is an act that says that official languages are Xhosa, Afrikaans and English. So they feel that we are really going back to the apartheid area to say that these people who live in this region are speaking that language. Yes, I believe that all languages must be spoken everywhere, but for now, Mr. Tanda, we must start somewhere. As I say that, how would you print? I'm not saying that Chivenda people are not staying in the Northern Cape. How would you print a lot of material in the Northern Cape where the only people are speaking the language is Afrikaans, is Xhosa and Setswana? So those are some of the issues that we are checking. The whole idea is to ensure that government message is passed in those areas at the end of the day. Understand parental input. That was my view also personally at first, to say that why should we just use certain languages? But now, in terms of demographics, somewhere we would be wasting a lot of resources if we print material where we know that it cannot be read.
Yeah. So far, only the Western Cape and Limpopo have enacted provincial language laws in accordance with the Constitution. What's the position with the other 7 provinces?
Obviously, the 7 is one of the issues that we're raising even during the public hearings. Also, we have, as a committee, we have said that the DG and the minister must ensure that after a certain period of time, although not only we never gave a time frame, those language policies or acts must be implemented as soon as possible.
Ms. Sunduza, time is against your portfolio committee and government. According to a court order, government has to pass this legislation before the 16th of March, and that is this coming Friday. Do you still have hope of finalizing this on time?
It seems legally, the person who has been taken to court is the minister. We as parliament must play our role. We are not going to rush and skip our parliament processes just because there's a deadline that we're waiting for. I spoke to Advocate Lawrence, the one who took the government to court, to say that we as parliament cannot skip our process because you will take us parliament now to court. Let's continue with our processes. The minister maybe can say that parliament is still busy with the process, because at the end of the day, it's parliament who must finalize the issue of the bill, who must pass the act in the house. So there we are on time in terms of our what we are supposed to do.
That was a recorded interview with the chairperson of Portfolio Committee on Arts and Culture, Ms. Thandile Sunduza. It's time for a break. When we return, we will bring you statements from members of parliament and responses from cabinet ministers. Don't go away.